just
you grabbed the buck.
The buck's horns, yeah. And the horns just went literally underneath my scrotum on the one side and on the other side, and it looked like WWF wrestling. I was pinned down on the ground holding the horns because I know if I leave the horns, I'm going to...
You said your scrotum, right?
Yeah, that's it.
They went through it?
Almost. Just underneath and through the femoral artery on the one side.
Absolutely.
So I knew if I let these horns go, I'm in a sticky situation.
This is the Houndsman XP Podcast.
Good dog, get that bear. Get that bear
in here. The original podcast for the complete Houndsman.
Look at your coat and go, Justin! We're gonna get him! We're gonna get him!
The podcast that represents our lifestyle of extreme performance.
Get him! Yeah, good boy! Ranger!
Uniting houndsmen across the globe, from east to west, north to south.
You know, if you're going to catch a cat or a lion, you know, you have to have teamwork.
We take you to the wildest places on earth.
Yeah, so how many days a week can you spend in that?
As much as I can, to be honest with you. Anytime that I get, I'm out there.
Join us for every heart-pounding adventure on Houndsman XP.
I'll tell you like I tell everyone else, I'm going to hunt whether you're here or not, so you might as well be here.
Welcome to this episode of the Houndsman XP Podcast, everybody. I'm just, as I get out and I travel around and always meeting new people, I had the great opportunity to meet this gentleman. And he saw my logo on my shirt, and we started talking about dogs and hounds. And one of my favorite topics, as you all know, is the Jagdterrier. And found out that we share some passions, and I'm really excited to talk to Dries van Coller about his experience with Bavarian hounds and Jagdterriers in environments that I've never hunted in, and we're going to dive deep back into some of the history and German hunting, European hunting. So, Dries, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much, Chris. I appreciate it. And like I said, it's a shared passion, and it was, I don't believe in coincidence. It was a reason why we met up, and it was great to see, especially, you know, I've been attending his conventions for many years, and it's the first time I've actually seen somebody actually walking around with some hunting dogs, you know, of various breeds. So it was great, and it's a very, very close subject to my heart. It's been part of who we are, and it's important. So, you know, it's a big passion.
Yeah. So why don't you just start off? We'll just start off by telling the audience, our listeners, where you're from and what you do for a living, and how you use your Bavarians and your Jags currently, and just kind of lay this out, kind of draw a picture for our listeners.
Okay. Well, I'm South African born, from German and Dutch descent, and strangely enough, all South Africans, you know, hunting plays a big part of our life. As such, the outdoors. If you're not hunting, you're fishing, and unfortunately, for many years, being a hunter, there was just something that had been lacking. And if we look at our hunting culture from the South African side, dogs never played such a big role. But with my European side, it's always been there. And I could never hunt without a dog. and it was just something. And then, as we spoke yesterday, the saying goes that hunting is not hunting if you're not hunting with your dog, and it's. Being a professional hunter or a professional hunting guide for the last 28 years, it's played a significant role in my life, and my career has progressed, not only being from a professional hunting guide, but to the president of the Professional Hunters Association of South Africa, and then moving on into various areas. We saw the big need is to educate people. Firstly, we've got a responsibility out of respect for the animal we hunt. As we discussed yesterday, I think traditions play a magnificently big, important role in what we do. Mm-hmm. Especially in today's culture where people don't really want to understand or have some apprehension to hunting. What is our primary function is not to let an animal suffer.
Right.
And this is where we see, especially with my dogs, is my responsibility is to try and to get to that animal if it is wounded as quickly as possible, and make sure that that it is put down in a manner that it doesn't really suffer. It's always a challenging environment that you're dealing with, and from a South African point of view, is everybody has got hunting dogs or so-called hunting dogs, and each guy's dog is the best. And
same way here.
The big challenge was, I don't think people understand the difference between a cold scent dog and something that works on the adrenaline and the spur of the moment. A little Jack Russell's great, and when I looked at the way we had been hunting in South Africa, I said, guys, there's something missing here. What do you think? What do you think? You think there was something missing in South Africa? Yes, most definitely in the hunting culture and the way we were using dogs.
Okay,
and it's like I said, this has been a drive for me for the. I go, like I said, 28 years ago, I was introduced into the Bavarian mountain scent hounds,
right?
And the Bayerische Bergschweizhund, and there were various dogs that have appealed to me, and the way that I travel and where I've been and where I've hunted, I've seen various dogs and dog handlers and individuals using their dogs, and they're great dogs and they perform their functions.
I always said when I was a professional handler, I used to tell people that I'm just a dummy on the end of the leash. I'm the weak link in this team.
Well, that's exactly what we spoke about. If you're a pilot of a plane, you've got to trust your instruments. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing, is what I found. A lot of people don't understand when you got your dog, you got to have that faith and that trust. Exactly.
That's the hardest thing for a handler, is to trust the dog. Because we've been told our whole lives that we're the top of the food chain. Okay. We're the superior being. And until a handler can accept the fact that dog can do things that he will never be able to do, how to read his dog, and we can get into all that. You've got to trust your dog. That's the hardest thing for a handler to do, is to learn to trust their dog.
And this is, I think, where especially the younger generation, like I said, unfortunately, we're all getting older, and I see the younger generation coming in, and he'll come to me and he'll want to get a dog, and then he'll come back, but the dog's not doing this, or the dog's not doing that, and I firmly believe it's not the dog, it's the handler. Handlers often need more education and understanding, and building up that trust relationship and understanding your dog, learning to interpret your dog. Each dog has got a different personality. I deal with multiple dogs, and I can't treat one the same as the other. And there are certain basic principles that I can apply. However, I've got to learn to read my dog in a scenario. And this is the relationship over years, and that's why you become so attached to them.
One of the things that I've seen said so many times, I've heard it said, I've seen it written, that only 8 out of 10, or only 8 out of 10 dogs just don't make it. I've seen houndsmen say, breeding is a crapshoot, and you've just got to accept that 8 out of 10 of the dogs won't make a hound. And then when I hear you talk about trusting a dog, and you say that you think most of the time it is the handler, we look at that dog and sometimes we don't consider the genetic instincts that dog brings to the table. He doesn't have to be trained to follow scent. Most of the time, it's the things that we're doing as handlers that are preventing him from doing his job.
Yeah.
Condition responses.
And you touch on a very big thing. Often, and I think we'll touch on a little bit of the breeding issues and the show dogs versus the working dogs. Yes, there's certain things when people come, and they're looking for a specific dog with a prey drive, a very high prey drive or something like that. But dogs are also like people. You get slow developers and you get fast developers. Right. And this is the thing, is to try and understand your dog. If he's a slow developer, he's going to get there. He might not be, but he's got other skills. I've seen a dog that I took and nobody wanted. It's turned out to be one of my better dogs, exactly because of understanding, working with him, and not putting him under the pressure with that expectation. The unfortunate thing is that we do. In your life, you've got one dog that was that best dog. And every dog thereafter, you compare your dogs to that dog.
We call it the measuring stick.
That's it.
Yeah, the measuring stick. Everything you do, then I know certain people, though, I know some people, and I've considered these people the most developed dog men, houndsmen. They don't ever lament over that one great dog that they had. They take every dog that they have, they look at the experiences they have, and then they evaluate each dog based on its own merits. They take all of this knowledge that they've learned along the way, and they continue to develop great dogs in their own right.
Exactly. And I think the important thing is...
The Houndsman XP podcast is fueled by Joy Dog Food.
Every dog has got certain
Joy Dog
skills
Food
about
has a rich tradition of supporting the
build up
Houndsman
that
of
relationship
America.
to understand
Founded
what are those
in
skills that makes that dog
1945,
different.
Joy is proud of its history and the
I don't call it
relationship it
weakness,
has
I call it
built with the
developmental
American
areas.
Houndsman.
There
And
are
in
certain things
76
that it
years,
might not be
there's
so
never
strong,
been a
but
recall.
it can
Made with
learn that after a
100%
period of time.
American-made high-quality
And
ingredients.
I think a lot of people
Joy Dog
start,
Food has one of the
especially what I've
highest
seen is
calorie-dense
with an
formulas on the
expectation.
market.
Yes, we all start our dogs
For
pretty
76
early.
years, this made-in-America
8 months,
product
we've got
has
an
kept hunting
expectation.
dogs in the field
But
day after day,
what
season after
we are
season.
seeing is here
And
about
when
4
we
years
say
old,
made in America,
that dog's
Joy
actually
has
only
a
coming to its
long
full
track
right and its
record of
potential.
fighting for
And
American
actually
freedoms by
you've
being
got
on
to
the
understand
front
your
lines
dog. You've got
against
to
the animal
understand the
rights movement
science.
and their extremist
I stand
tactics.
astounded at times.
Joy will fuel your
where,
hounds and fight for your
the way
freedoms.
I operate my
fueled
dog is
by
on the lead,
Joy.
and I've got skilled trackers as well, that'll stay on the animal's track. So we're working on the scent and they're working on the physical track. And you'd be divergent, they'd be off on one side and you'd be with the dog and they think you're crazy.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I just call and say, here's the animal. And it just didn't make sense. All logic and all the signs were showing it was doing this. And that's the relationship that you've built up with experience, with time, and understanding. Some dogs are just chilled. Some dogs, unfortunately, they are. And I think this is where a lot of and this is why I have this apprehension of trying to crossbreed for certain traits or certain type of things. You never know what you're going to get.
When you talk about crossbreeding, you're talking about crossbreeding from like the Bavarian into another breed of dog?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Just so we understand.
And so it's always a topic, like I said. I think everybody's striving to get that top dog.
Sure.
The ultimate breed.
None of us want to turn loose a worthless dog, and hunt with a worthless dog.
Because, at the end of the day, we've got a thing on ego. We don't want to be sitting around the fire at night and say, that mutt of yours was running around and doing absolutely nothing, because it's embarrassing. And this is the thing, is you also end up getting a reputation of, your dogs can't work. If you're in this for the money, and then that's where it also becomes a challenge.
Sure.
I believe in working dogs, and my dogs go to homes where I know they will be worked for what they were bred for. Mm-hmm. And each dog has a purpose. Now, this is where the big challenge comes, is a lot of people don't understand the breed. They don't understand what it's about. and then all of a sudden it becomes a bad dog.
I want to get into that because we had a good conversation about that the other day. Let's talk about when you do a dog deployment, when you go out to utilize your dogs. Lay that out for us. Lay out for us where it's at. Let's talk about climate. Let's talk about the game species. And then when you're actually on the track and you've got your professional trackers out there with you, how you work as a team. And
this is the word used there, team, is exactly that. And a team is only as strong as its weakest link. Now, people have also got the false impression that dogs will have 100% success rate. It's you're going to have off days. There's certain things. If you mentioned climate, firstly we got to look at the conditions that we are dealing in.
Right.
Is certain dogs can handle temperature. Here in the US and in Europe, you don't have the extreme temperatures like we have back home. Some days we do have. In 36 to 40 degrees centigrade, which is over 100 Fahrenheit, and it has an effect on the dog. The dog does get tired. Wind conditions. So there's a lot of other things. And then the complexity that you have is the variety of animals that we are dealing with. It's not just a whitetail or some boars.
Right.
In most of the areas we're hunting, we have multiple species. You could have 30 different species, 15 different species of antelope, large herds of antelope. And that dog has got to be able to identify, you go through an area. Is he on the track of that wounded animal, or is he on the track of another animal of the same species? And so this is where the teamwork interpretation starts.
Are you training a dog to track blood spore, or are you tracking them to train body scent? Are you tracking them to read glandular odor, or is it a combination of everything?
It has to be a combination of everything. But one of the biggest things is that we as humans, we want to see the physical evidence. So we want to see the blood. And all of a sudden you're on the blood track here, but the dog is veering off to one side, and you don't understand why. But this is where the track is. Why is he not staying? We don't understand that smell of that blood has shifted. The wind direction has caused it to move off in a different direction, and he's working on that scent. People also understand that the glandular scent, and that's why these Bavarians that I'm dealing with are cold scent hounds, and it's more focused on the smell that's caused from the crushing of the leaves and the grass, and the smell that is left by the physical print, and not necessarily blood, but it will pick up the blood as well. So as a team, and that's why I said it makes me a lot more successful, I keep my trackers on the blood track. So they're following the blood track and the spoor of the animal, and I'm working on the scent. And that's why at the end of the day, on the scent, we normally end up finding the animal long before the trackers get there. So it's a team effort. But once again, like I said, is you've got to know how to work your dog. It doesn't help me taking me one of my younger professional hunters and giving my dog to him. He's not going to understand, the dog's reaction. There's certain signs that certain way of barking. I know he's baited an animal up. If he starts barking in a certain way, I know he's sighted the animal. So you've got to learn to interpret those things. And then the big decision is there: are you working on your lead, or are you letting him run free?
Right.
And this is where we spoke about the Jagdterrier and then the Bavarian, where the differences start coming in. What was the dog bred for?
Right.
And so I think, firstly, your personality, we always say this little joke, a dog will always look like its owner. and that's a personal choice at the end of the day. Bavarians are softer dogs. You can't compare them to the Jagdterrier. And what was the purpose of the Jagdterrier? What was the purpose of the Bavarian? Mountain scent hound. And that's to exactly, it's a scent hound. It's not there to chase the animal down. It's not there to catch the animal. It's there to perform a function on the scent. And I think this is often people get a dog and everything is called a hunting dog.
Right.
But have you applied your mind? Have you actually researched why was it bred? And this is when we start getting to this breeding issue, is why do I want to change it if the breed has been established since 1906 or 1912, or people have done the research and they found it in a recipe that works for their conditions.
Right.
Yes, our conditions in Africa are different. Dogs that you've got here in the US that we don't have back home, Catahoula's, for example. It would be a phenomenal dog back home, but nobody's tried it. Will they perform the same way there as they do here? And I think that is the thing. Is firstly, you as an individual deciding is, if I find pleasure in the dog and I can have a relationship with my dog, he's going to work for me. And if I enjoy what I'm doing, we're going to work together as a phenomenal team. And I think these are the type of things. Bavarians are one of those. They're not kennel dogs, and often I see a lot of people. They work their dogs. They get back in the afternoon. They put the dog in the kennel, and that's the relationship. Bavarian wants to be with you. He wants to be with you now. So he's part of your family, and it can be difficult. They do have separation anxiety, so it's a dog that needs a lot of attention. It doesn't trust very easily. So if there is a foreigner or something, it takes a while for him to build up that trust. But once he's got it, it's a phenomenal dog. So once again, you need to understand the breed, why it was bred, and what is its purpose.
Let's just look at those two breeds, and we'll talk about that for just a few minutes here. The Bavarian Mountain Hound. Okay, so you talked about what was his bred purpose. Obviously, we would say that I'm wanting to chase mountain lions, hunt mountain lions like we do with our scent hounds in the United States. And I started looking into the Bavarian Mountain Hound because it just seems called a scent hound.
Yeah, that's it.
There's all kinds of hounds out there, but what types of traits are there that appeal to you for recovering wounded game, and would they work for, I'm not trying to put a square peg in a round hole here, but are they suitable for free cast hunting and chasing lions or a black bear?
Yeah. Primarily, the dog was never bred to run freely. There are people that do that. It is a light hound that was meant to be worked off a lead. It's a scent hound. It's exactly that, looking for wounded game. So it's got a different function. If you're comparing it to the walkers and all the, it's totally different functions.
Right.
And I think this is what people need to understand. Its primary function was to look for that wounded animal, and to go out and to use it to chase other animals down.
What did they use them for back in the old country?
Well, if you ever look at the Bavarian Mountain Hound is a smaller version. I can't do it. The Hanoverian is a similar dog, but it's a heavier built in a terrain that was flat and not as mountainous as the Alps. And the moment when you start getting into Bavaria, you start getting into the Alps, you start getting into serious mountain areas. You need an agile, fast dog that, look at the animals that are being hunted. The chamois, some wild boar, often the little raybuck. So those were the animals. They're fast, they're agile, they're up in the mountains. So you needed a lighter, faster dog that could take the tracks. It wasn't designed to go and catch. Where the Hanoverians is a stronger, bigger dog. On red deer and that type of stuff, they were used there. So for me personally, the reason why I started looking at various dogs, I travel a lot. So from having a big dog with me would be difficult. You're driving around the vehicle the whole time. You're in different areas. And it just, we don't have the facilities like you guys have got here. Dogs in our country, you can't stay in a hotel with a dog and things like that. So it makes it very difficult. But the biggest thing for me is the agility of them, and they're extremely intelligent. I've worked with many dogs, and at a point I also, like I said, I don't want my dog to be injured. And when it is getting into a wounded animal, that you don't want it to fight the animal. Now this is where the Jagdterrier would be different.
Right.
So that's a personal decision that you've got to make at the end of the day, is how do I want to handle my dog? What do I want to achieve? For me, I want to keep my guest happy and making sure he's going home with the animal that he came to hunt. And the chances of me finding his animal with my dog are just 300-400% increased by having that there. My trackers are reliable, but you know, there's certain things they don't have the skills or the scent or the just instinct that the dogs have got.
Right.
Now, yes, there's other dogs that can do it when the trail's warm, but what happens after a day or two, and you've got a gut shot animal out there, and everybody else has given up. You know, there's nothing worse than looking at a hunter and he's down, he's depressed, he's lost his animal. So there's more. These animals can bring hope, and you can go out and at least put it on a cold scent and start working it. And there's a high chance that you'll pick it up, which another dog might not be interested in.
Getting back to the physical traits, I just, when I do these interviews and I start thinking about it, I try to come up with pictures in my mind or word pictures to describe. You know, it's like American football, and you don't recruit a wide receiver that weighs 325 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, you want something small and agile and quick and good hands, and you don't recruit a 180-pound person to play defensive line for you. You know, everybody's got their job and everybody's got their purpose. So as the coach of this team, we try to find people with the attributes to fill those roles, and we should be doing the same thing as Houndsman.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think each dog is fit for purpose. A lot of people don't do their research beforehand. The Hanoverian, yes, it can be a pet, but it was never bred to be a pet. The Bavarian, the same thing. It was never bred to be a pet. It's a working dog. I mean, they need 2 hours of exercise at least a day.
Right.
So, you know, if you're living in a small apartment, I think it's not going to make sense. You're not doing the dog justice. It becomes destructive. The dog gets a bad name. The breed gets a bad name.
Sure.
You know, and that's exactly what we're talking about.
So while they need to be with you, they because you said they get separation anxiety, so they're not good kennel dogs. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you can lay on the couch with them for 12 hours a day. If you're lazy, your dog's going to have problems.
Exactly.
So I think that's true with all our dogs, with all our hounds. You know, if I choose to lay around and if I'm lazy, then my dogs are going to suffer. Yeah. And what else about the Bavarian we need to know?
Well, you know, the biggest thing is it's an unknown breed. If I was just doing a little bit of research trying to see in the US how many Bavarians are there, how many Bavarians. That's
probably a good thing for the Bavarian hound.
If we have a look at where it came from, strangely enough, the American Kennel Union does recognize the breed, which is a good thing, and there's a breed standard. It's a very sensitive topic in Germany, is owning a Bavarian. It's not the privilege for everybody to get it. There's a very strict criteria to get a Bavarian at the end of the day. You've got to be a professional hunter. You've got to have certain criteria that goes with it. And you've got to make the commitment. We're trying to look after the breed and what it was bred for. You know, so the breed standard, you want that strong scenting ability. You want that working ability. You don't want to lose that.
Right.
And I think, so the breed standards are very, very important. And if I look at a lot of the stuff, I see straight away, I can look at a dog and I can say, you know, there's something that's not right about that dog. It's not bred or it's not lacking. It could be a good dog, but is it a true Bavarian up to the standards? And this is one of the things, is the working ability is superseding the showing ability. You know, there's a lot of dog shows, and I see people enter the dogs, and the dog's a top champion and that with obedience and things like that. But can the dog work?
Right.
And I think that's the primary focus. What is the dog bred for? Does it meet the breed standard? And the breed standard is there for a reason. You know, and I think this is what a lot of people don't understand. Why do I want to change that breed standard? There's a lot of other dogs I could use then. But I chose Bavarians because, firstly, the tradition that goes about it, the amount of time and effort and years that people have spent to try and get a dog's fit for purpose. And it's the same with a lot of these breeds. We look at, all over the world. There's a lot of, even in Africa, mixed breeds that are wonderful hunting dogs. But are they really hounds? And I'm a traditionalist and a purist in a sense. I like the tradition that goes with it. I like the hunting heritage that goes with it. As I said, hunting with my dog gives me pleasure. That's hunting.
Sure.
And that's the tradition that comes with it. Here I'm hunting with a traditional German dog in a manner that, there's respect, there's reverence for each other, you're appreciating nature, you're sharing things. So it's not just about the relationship that you've got with a dog doing a job for you. It's about the whole culture, the whole tradition that goes with it.
You know what app I use on my phone more than any other app besides the podcast app to listen to this here podcast? I use OnX. OnX Maps is the most comprehensive mapping system for hunters on the market today. I use it all the time. When I was in New Mexico, I was looking at 40,000 acres of ranch that I needed to learn. I flip open OnX and just start studying the map. When I'm riding trails, I put the tracking app on. It helps me get around in strange country. I could mark water sources, food sources, bear sign, just all kinds of options within OnX. You need to check out OnX Maps by going to houndsmanxp.com. Click on the link on our sponsor page. You'll go right to OnX Maps, and when you check out, enter the code HXP20 and you will get 20% off of your order. Know where you stand with OnX. The Houndsman XP podcast only endorses products that we would use ourselves, and I do use Elite Nutrition supplements. Elite Nutrition offers supplements for your horses, your mules, your dogs, and even you. These all-natural products work with your dog's natural immune system and its normal, natural body function, not to treat symptoms, but to fix problems. Stop pumping pharmaceutical toxins into yourself or your dogs and start using these all-natural products that work with the perfect system that God gave you. Go to tryelitenutrition.com and check out their products for wound care, prebiotic, probiotic, puppy stuff. It's all there. Parasite control. If you expect extreme performance, you need Elite Nutrition.
And I see a lot of that. My experience has been that people that just want to be involved in hunting usually don't last very long as houndsmen. They think they want to be in hounds, but once the new wears off of taking game or killing game, then they realize that they've got the work to go with it, and it's they just don't last. You've got to be sold out to understanding and trying to master so many things with a hound, about training, about behavior, understanding dog behavior, as trainers, we're manipulating their behavior for our purposes. That's what we're doing, and until we get to that point where we're trying to, I'm not just a guy that likes to. I'm not just a guy that likes to go to the football game. I want to be in the game. That's it, that's what it takes to be the best houndsman I know are like that.
Yeah. Well, and this is why I said when I talk about the tradition, and a lot of people don't understand. Hunting all over the world differs in different countries. Now we look where the two breeds come from. We look where the Jagdterrier comes from, the Deutsche Drahthaar, Kurzhaar, and the Bavarian Scenthound. And you look at a traditional driven hunt, and if you are a proficient houndsman and your dog works, you will be invited to every single hunt that's there because people know your dog is going to function. A lot of those people aren't the biggest hunters, but they want to work their dogs. They've got a passion for working their dogs, and the dogs are serving a purpose.
Right.
On a driven hunt, normally what will happen, they will position people out in a place. Often it's in snow, it's in thick bush, and then they'll release the little Jagdterriers.
Yeah.
They'll go out and sniffle out the boars and the hogs and chase them along and all the animals, and you'll hear the Jagdterriers way down there, and you know something's coming.
Yeah.
You know, and then the hunt will take place, and you might have a bad shot. Then the houndsmen are all walking and working their dogs. The Jagdterriers are doing their own thing. They're just chasing the animals to the next town. And
causing mass mayhem and chaos.
The houndsman will come to you and say, "Did you wound anything?" You know, and you say, "Yes, I'm not sure. The animal was over there. I might have had a bad shot." He'll go to what I call the crime scene. He'll analyze it. He might pick up some hair. He might pick up some blood, and he'll pick up some bone, and he takes the track, and off he goes. Mm-hmm. And this is the function of that. So it's totally two different functions that you're dealing with. And at the end of the day, you're relieved when he comes back and says, "I found your deer," or "I found your boar lying there."
Right.
So this is the difference. And then in the evenings, when everybody gets together, the dogs are all social. And everybody that doesn't have GPS collars on there is getting phone calls from the next little town, because all the little Jagdterriers have got their telephone numbers on their collars, and people are phoning, "I found your dog over here." It's a different culture,
right?
You know, and it's a different purpose. And I think this is the ideal thing. And you know, if we're going to Austria and you're going up into the mountains there, you'll find all the foresters and all the professional hunters that are there, that are hunting high up in those altitudes. They've all got their dogs with them. You know, it's a companionship, it's a relationship. It gets lonely at times.
Doing a little mic adjustment here.
Okay.
There we go.
It might get lonely at times, and just sharing that with your dog. You know, it's amazing to see them work. You know, it's the same when you start looking at the retrievers and the guys doing waterfowl. You know, that's why he's involved with it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's unfair to compare dogs. I've always said, you know, there's very few bad dogs. There's a lot of bad owners, and people are not suited to have the dog.
One of the things that there are differences, and I'm guilty of thinking that I'd like to. I've always wanted to try and hunt with the Jagdterrier. I'm a houndsman. You know, I've had mountain curs. I've had all this other stuff, but I've found that the Jagd is something that he will trail. I've seen him trail. I've seen him work out some complicated trails that the hounds were bogged down on, and watched him on the Garmin and see him swing out, and then the hounds go to him. But they're just different, you know, and I feel like it's my responsibility to not put him in a situation where he's going to end up, you know, intentionally harming himself. Talk a little bit about the mentality of the Jagdterrier, because you were summing this up so well. I'm butchering it. So,
and I think this fit for purpose. A Jagdterrier is a wonderful dog, and I mean, I've met of the top breeders of Jagdterriers in Germany and in Austria. Mm-hmm. We've imported them into South Africa. Right. And firstly, you as a Jagdterrier owner, you remember you buying a loaded firearm. And that is, they have got a tremendous heart about, you know, we've got the Parsons, Jack Russells, we've got people that believe in them. Mm-hmm. I just believe that, you know, you look at the little Patterdales from the UK, the Jagdterrier is these dogs on steroids. You know, he's got an extremely high prey drive, and he doesn't realize his size. Yeah. And that's the thing. And he's going to fight everything. Mm-hmm. You know, he's a fearless. And what was his primary function? As I said, to find those animals and chase them on. And if they bathe them up, great. He was never really put out there to be a scent hound following on a trail, on working along. And a lot of people get it right, but once again, it's the amount of effort you're putting into your dog. We spoke about if you're going to sit on the couch all day or you're going to work your dog. A lot of these dogs can be taught to do that, but it was never his primary focus. Right. They are very hard-headed. They need a lot of attention. and they've got an extremely amount of prey drive. So, that's the thing. Are you going to keep it focused that it's not going to chase something else that it shouldn't be chasing? It's a very, very, very difficult. And I just say for an inexperienced guy, it's not the dog that you want.
Yeah, if you think you're going to buy, get a Jagd and just turn him loose to run around the house and let him out in the yard. If you live in a neighborhood, I promise you that is not going to work. He's not going to stay in your yard, and he's just they're wired different. I've had other dogs, that just like crating. You open the door, the dog runs in there. You have to spend a couple weeks with a treat to get him in there. Well, my Jagd, he will crate sometimes. A lot of times he'll just run in the crate, but he's turning around. If you stop rewarding that behavior the way he wants to be rewarded, man, he'll look at you and be like, nah.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to do that. I got to hear that bag rustle a little bit of those treats, and then I'll get in there. And I know people will say, well, you're just not a good trainer. But I think it's something, and I'll admit I'm not the best trainer, but I think there's something in that dog's mind that's wired different than my submissive golden retriever and my, all these those dogs know what they want. And it's our job to convince them that your way is better than what they're thinking, because you can't beat it out of them. They are wired different.
Most definitely, and I think this is and I speak from experience. We've seen what they do when they get bored. And when they're not getting enough exercise, so
they tear stuff up and they kill stuff.
So you can make enemies pretty quickly with your neighbors.
Yes.
Once again, it's got a purpose, and in our hunting environment in South Africa, there's guys that have imported them, and I just smiled because from the beginning I said to them, guys, this dog is not going to work the way you want it. Your temperament and that dog is not going to get along. And we smiled, and a couple of months later, the dog's been given to somebody else, and it does the dog an injustice. You can get the top breeder, you can get the top. If you're not going to use it for its purpose, you're going to be disappointed. Some guys try and cross them to try and tone them down a little bit. That's not what they were intended for.
Right.
And this is what I said: is go and see how they are used, where they came from. And then you'll understand. And like I said, they are there to chase, to get everything moving. And on those driven hunts, they're essential. And they do a phenomenal job. And here we try, and now we're trying to focus his brain to calm down. And then unfortunately in Africa, we don't only have the animals we deal with. We've got a lot of venomous snakes and things like that.
Absolutely.
And the sad thing is, Jagdterriers don't last long in our country because they get killed. It's either snakes or an animal because he just thinks he can take it down. He's invincible. He's bulletproof, and that's one of the biggest challenges that we deal with.
Okay, a real easy example for maybe people to understand what we're talking about here. So, when my wife thinks that dogs need fluffy beds in their kennel crates in order to be comfortable, and so I let her go down that road with the Jagd. Well, the problem is when you stop a behavior or you interrupt a behavior this little dog, he will hunt the mice in the kitchen. If you got a mouse in your kitchen, he's going to be flipping open doors and flipping. He will empty a cabinet on the floor to find the mouse because he thinks he smells a mouse in the back. And that's what kind of, and if you can either channel that energy outside chasing big game, or he's going to channel that energy in the house. And if you interrupt that before he's done and you put him in there on that fluffy bed and you leave him for 45 minutes, you're going to come back and it's going to be in a lot of pieces. It's going to be scattered all over the place. Yeah. And my wife calls him the rugrat, and it's like that dog, but he can also, when he's properly worked, and when he's properly exercised, he is, believe it or not, he's one of the most easy dogs I've ever had in the house. He just comes in, he knows where his bed is. I can free range him in the house and interact with the other dogs and stuff. He's fine. But if I don't,
That's it.
he is a terror.
Well, this is, and it's not only, I think it comes down to a lot of these working dogs. They need to work. And it's the same with the Jagdterrier. They need to burn that energy. They're extremely focused. And that's like I said, with that one, we see it. I mean, even with the Patterdales, it's the same thing. That focus is there. You're not going to change it. So they need the exercise. It's the same as I said with the Bavarians. If you don't have 2 hours a day to go out and take the effort and get them to burn the energy, then you're going to be sitting with problems. You're going to be sitting there. And then all of a sudden, but this dog's not doing this, or it's not functioning. It's not fair.
I don't think the needs for that seem to be a little more extreme when you start talking about Yogs or any of the terrier breeds and stuff like that. But that's not to say that our scent hounds, like our blue tick hound, should spend months in a kennel without ever getting out and being exercised. He'll be fine. That's not what we're saying at all here. Or your Labrador or your Golden Retriever or what. I mean, dogs need exercise. They need that interaction, stuff like that. So, we should never, ever not be working with our dogs daily and stuff like that for sure. So let's get into a little more of the interesting stuff. That's kind of small talk, but let's talk about Africa. Let's talk about you using these dogs in Africa. I mean, you tracking lions, you tracking Gemsbok. What are you tracking? I can't imagine. You got a water buffalo or a Cape buffalo, that was shot and he's wounded, and now it's like, yeah, Dries, we shot a Cape buffalo. Can you bring your Bavarian?
Yeah.
Do you do that?
That's exactly what we do. And then this is,
that's a dangerous animal, especially wounded.
Well, all animals are dangerous, and this is the thing. It comes down, firstly, respect for nature and respect for all the animals. So we are trying to put it down as quickly as possible. Now you're sitting with a wounded animal, and with a Cape buffalo, for example, if we don't put it down, it can be a menace to somebody else. We see how many unprovoked charges every year.
Right.
People killed by buffalo.
They're flipping over Land Rovers, Dries.
So yes, it's a choice. But once again, and this is where your trust with your dog comes in, is I've got to be able to interpret the signs. I can already sense when my dog is sensing something is close by.
Right.
Yes, be it from the smallest little antelope right up. Elephant and stuff like, we don't need the dogs, we're not going to be using there's no need for that. But with lion, they save your life. With buffalo, they save your life.
Yeah, sure.
With leopard, most definitely. And these are the type of things people don't understand, is that, well, firstly, are our human skills adapted to such a level as to the prey that we're pursuing? No, they're not.
Right.
We talk about fair chase. It's a nice word, but who fair for who? But when I've got my dog with me, it gives me the ability, firstly, to look after. My primary focus as a professional guide is your safety. So I can control
the safety of your hunter.
My hunter, correct. Yeah. So I can control the situation. I know my trackers are looking and my dog is looking. If something should happen, my dog's going to be the first one to let me know something's coming. So it just gives you that extra level of security. Something is going to be.
So it's very similar. What you're describing is very similar to being a police canine handler. Yeah. So when I would deploy with my dog, I would have a team with me of people. And my job was to watch my dog, read my dog, and I could tell when we were getting close. Proximity alert. Maybe you get a scent hook where a dog flips its head, and all of a sudden it's reading the wind, and that your target's that direction.
That's it.
And you can communicate. It's like
That's it.
So you're same thing that you're doing with your dogs there.
Yeah, and like I said, is you need to read your dog. One of my dogs. when she starts jumping up and like almost onto her back paws, like like excited, something's in front of you.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen, and straight away you prepared, and it gives you just that extra 2 or 3 seconds that you need to deal with the situation.
Sure.
And this is why I said we all get older. I can't run anymore, so I've got to rely on my dog. I love working with my dog, and the people that the clients that are coming out and are working with us and have worked with the dog at the end, and they get the animal, the relief and the joy in their face, knows he's successful and he's going home. He's accomplished something, but he's had an experience that he would never have any before. And he looks at dogs in a different way. And our responsibility as houndsmen and working with our dogs is also to educate and to show people, the relationship. We all part of nature. We all fit in together.
Yeah.
I think this is the thing is why hunting with your dog is part of it. It's man's best friend for a reason. And it's such a critical part of my life, and it's not going to change.
It's not a hobby; it's part of your lifestyle.
Well, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And this is just the things. I earn my living full time from it.
Sure.
And my big thing is, I realize I'm getting older. Do I rely on a younger guy or my dog? My dog first. So,
tracking dogs, wildlife recovery dogs, whatever you want to call them, they're becoming very big. Every year now, especially with the whitetail crowd, they shoot a deer, they can't track it, and now they're on Facebook. And they're asking if anybody's got a tracking dog around. Since you do this for a living, maybe you could speak to some do's and don'ts for our blossoming tracking dog community here in the United States. What are some do's and don'ts on tracking? Because I'm assuming that you're still going to have some scent contamination, track contamination, but typically what happens here is kind of like law enforcement, really. They call the dog after the police officers can't find the bad guy, after they've already trumped it all up. They will, and in the hunting world, it's like we've already called all our buddies and we've can't find blood. We were out there for 7 hours and we looked for 3 days, and you got a dog and come and find my deer.
Yeah, the difference that we sit within our environment is like I said, you guys hunting a lot of public land, and it's exactly that. You got everybody helping and trying to find the animal, and you got all the contamination and the stuff that takes place from that little crime scene where it was last seen.
Right.
And so it makes it very difficult. From the hunting culture where I come from is bow hunters do it very well, but when it's not getting to the rifle is after the shot, if you're not sure, wait. And I say to I've got a basic thing is 30 minutes or an hour. If I'm not sure, it's going to make sure that animal is going to be close by. I'm fortunate in the sense I don't have a lot of people that are rushing in. It's myself, my guest, and my trackers.
Yeah.
I'm watching the reaction of the animal, so I can say, we got a gut shot animal or whatever. It's going to.
So the shot goes off, your hunter, your guest shoots, and now your trackers go up and evaluate the site.
What I do is we first wait. This is why I saw you with your hearing. I wear hearing protection the whole time, and the most important thing for me is I set him up. I identify the animal. I'm watching the animal with my binos. I can see exactly. I would explain to him where it's quartering on, it's quartering away. It's a frontal chest shot. This is where you got to aim. You see the little white dot. So we're communicating the whole time until he shoots. When that shot goes off, I see how the animal reacts, and I can more or less see where the shot went. And then I said, okay, well, maybe it's a little bit far behind. It could be a high lung shot, or it could be a gut shot. And then we wait.
Okay.
If my trackers are not going to go ahead and anything. Firstly, I do it for 2 reasons. Is we call it hunting your game time. I don't want the animals in the area to associate that shot with my people or with rifles or anything like that. So that's the one thing. Then after we go up to where we last saw it.
Right.
And that area gets marked. And straight away, before we do anything, I get my dog. My dog's with me.
Okay.
So,
you take the dog with you.
Me. The dog is with me 24 hours a day. He sits with me in the blind. He sits me on the trail. If we're walking, we're stalking, the dog is with me. And I think that's the difference. So where you guys are being called out afterwards,
right?
My dog is with me the whole time. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So it's a different scenario, and you can't compare.
So you're just putting where a lot of times in the United States, it's like a last resort call.
Yeah.
Where I think the culture's changing, though. I think people are starting to understand the value of the dogs, and they're starting to be more accepting of it. Again, it goes back to that cultural ego. I'm a human. That's just a dog, and we all want to think that we're these great trackers, and we don't want to surrender to the dog. But you're taking the dog in there right from the get-go. You don't even approach that site where he was shot without the dog with you, and then you can make the decision. So you're not dealing with all the rest of it.
And then that's what makes the difference, and that makes your success so much higher.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
So your contamination and all that is, and my trackers know the first thing is, they are watching the animal from the shot. If we're stalking along, and this is where your control with your dog comes in. Why Jagdterriers are a little bit difficult because they smell that animal, they start getting excited, they start jumping up and down, they start running. So it's a little bit difficult. You can control them, but with my Bavarians, they're calm, they're collected. I can put out the shooting sticks. The hunter can clearly identify his animal and shoot it. Then we wait, and then I can move up from there. The dog's quite comfortable. He knows we're hunting. The moment I put that harness on, he knows we're in working mode. But he will be with me all along
Gear
the time.
association.
And that's what makes the difference. When I get there, is I have a look at the scene. Nobody's walked around there.
Right.
And that's already, normally it's the dog that shows me the first bit of blood. No, he shows me the first bit of hair.
Yeah.
And then from there, I can start walking. And then I say to my trackers, and I say to my guests, you stay behind me and let the trackers will stay on the track. Now, all the trackers are doing is just verifying is the dog might, at that time, you got to learn to read your dog. The wind direction might change and he might veer off in a little rift. And you come back and I say, well, now the last track is there. And it's a team.
Sure.
And that's why our success is so big at the end. Yes, you do have your failures. I mean, it can start raining. There's a lot of things that can happen. But the vast majority of the time, so it's a different hunting environment, and you can't compare the two. In Europe, they're pretty much like you guys. As a hunter, you've got to be registered with a houndsman. So if you do have the situation, the dogs are called in afterwards, and the dogs are successful. The same in Denmark. For you to get your hunting license, is you've got to be registered with a houndsman at the end of the day. So if you do wound an animal, that they will call.
Okay, I want to make sure you're saying that, like, if I hold a hunting license, before I ever step into the field, I've got to be registered with a houndsman that's going to come and help me assist on the recovery.
If you live in a little town and you get issued your hunting license, and to get your hunting license in Europe is a difficult process in any case. And in your area, it's compulsory that you register and you have the ability to get to a houndsman. Denmark will not, in certain areas, even allow you to get your life if you don't have that relationship. They've got to be brought in, because you cannot leave that wounded animal out there. Yeah. So that's how important it is, and that's why these breeds have been developed to do that function.
The Houndsman XP Podcast Network is powered by Cajun Lights. All of your lighting needs for hunting can be taken care of at Cajun Lights. They have 3 models of cap lights. I'm going to run through them real quick. You've got the Rougarou, which is their high-end light. If you're a competition hunter and you got to find that coon up in a tree and it's all riding on finding that coon, you'll want the Rougarou on your head. Next is the Bayou. That's a pretty standard light, but it's got packed with features. It's got multiple colors. It's got walking lights. It's got the red, the green, the amber. It's all built in right into that light. And then you have one of my personal favorites, the Micro Gator. The Micro Gator is an ultra lightweight cap light. It's got all the features of a white light, red, green, and amber. I've used this light for everything from finding bear tracks early in the morning to coon hunting at night to working on plumbing in the house, changing tires on the side of the road. My truck doesn't leave the driveway without a Cajun light in it, and that light is the Micro Gator. Every Cajun light is durable, made from the highest quality components, and it is backed by Cajun's top-rated customer service. Check out Cajun Lights. You can go to our website at houndsmanxp.com. Go to our sponsors page, hit that link, it'll take you right to Cajun Lights. Check them out. They got a lot of stuff to offer over at Cajun Lights.
I've got a friend who does that job in Sweden.
Yeah.
And Per England up there. He's been on the podcast. But even if they have an automobile strike on wildlife up there, there's a duty and an obligation to recover it, and that's his job.
That's it. Same in Europe. And and that's what I said. So each country differences. We don't have that requirement in our country. But for me personally, and in my life and in my business, I saw I cannot do it without my dogs. I'm the guide, but without my trackers and my dogs.
Do you track for other PHs over there?
For the local hunters, yes. Like I said, I do run my own safari outfit, and most of the time I'm doing my own. But there's a lot of local hunters, and strangely enough, hunting is not just a hobby; it's a lifestyle. So you go with and. Then I don't hunt. I hunt enough in the season, but I'll go with and I'll be the cook, or I'll go with a young hunter, and when something goes wrong, then you're helping them.
Right.
So yes, I don't do it on a commercial basis. There are some people in South Africa that do it on a commercial basis that you can call. But like I said, that's totally a different thing. My main focus is the hunting itself, and my dogs are there to assist me to be successful. Their main business is to get their dogs at the end of the day and get called out and make that service available.
Well, to wrap this up, your time's valuable. You didn't come here to talk to me, obviously, but I appreciate you doing that. Do you have a particular memorable hunt with your dogs, recovery or whatever? Like to hear something about like a charging Cape buffalo or a leopard or something.
Well,
it's your choice.
Yeah. The irony with this is I like to proceed with caution. I'm not one of those impulsive people that just runs into a situation, and I always evaluate and assess, and I'm creating scenarios when I'm busy hunting. If something comes out of that bush, what am I going to do? And you're working with your dog, so your dog is with you the whole time. And strangely enough, everybody you hear stories about Cape buffalo and elephant and stuff. I had a guest who had wounded a common reed buck. Now, common reed buck is pretty much the size of your whitetail. It's not a very big animal, and he had shot the front leg off. But it went into extremely long grass, and it was elephant grass. We can't see each other, so it was in the grass, and you could more or less see the track it was on. And for some reason for that day, I wasn't carrying my rifle. I carry a sidearm, and I'd wrapped the lead around my hand. And trying to just keep it short. The dog was on the track. We were on it, and everybody else was lost in the grass somewhere. Looking. And the next thing, the reed buck got out where it bedded down, and it charged me. Now here's this little antelope with extremely sharp horns, and all I could do. I can't let my dog go. I had to grab it, and I grabbed it. I pushed its horns down, and the horns just.
You grabbed the buck.
The buck's horns, yeah, and the horns just went literally underneath my scrotum on the one side and on the other side, and it looked like WWF wrestling. I was pinned down on the ground holding the horns because I know if I leave the horns, I'm going to.
You said your scrotum, right?
Yeah, that's it.
They went through it?
Almost. Just underneath and through the femoral artery on the one side.
Absolutely.
So I knew if I let these horns go, I'm in a sticky situation.
Right.
My trackers and skinners couldn't see me because we in the long grass, and this is all happening and the movement there. And I was shouting at them to come there. All my dog done, it just grab the reed buck by the throat and just hang on to it. And if it wasn't for my dog, I couldn't let my dog go.
Yeah.
So he was also being kicked and thrown around. And I mean, this is a 90-pound little animal throwing you around, and all you lying doing in the ground and just holding on.
Right.
And like I said, there's my dog grabbed by the throat, and he brought it down at the end of the day. By the time the trackers and the skinners had gone there, we'd solved the problem.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for my dog, that would have been one of those sad stories. It's okay, if a guide is killed by a buffalo, but when you start getting saying a guide killed by a reed buck, so it's something that I'll never forget. But yeah, it's a part of my life, and I just love my dogs.
It's being. I'm not going to say that you were complacent, but it's easy for us to, you just don't think about a whitetail attacking a person. Yeah. Or a reed buck attacking a person. You're worried about the grizzly, or you're worried about, and those are the things when you're not, they can kill you too. Yeah, for sure.
It goes about respect. You lose respect for nature, it hurts you.
Exactly. Well, Dries, I really appreciate you taking time. I know that as the president of the Professional Hunters Association of South Africa, then you're busy, and extremely honored to have you take time to sit down and talk to our audience. And do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you want to tell the listeners here in the United States? Well, actually, we have some people in South Africa that listen to this podcast.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's been an honor and a privilege. Firstly, like I said, to be able to have a chat with you, really appreciate. And like I said, we never stop learning. Every opportunity that I get to learn about another breed, another way of doing things, I utilize it. And I think that's the big thing is do your homework, do your research, and keep learning.
Right. Well, thank you very much. And that'll wrap it up for this episode of the Houndsman XP podcast, everybody. Make sure you're checking out our YouTube channel. We've got Dries over there talking more in depth about about PHASA, which is a professional Hunters Association of South Africa. We talk about some other stuff there. Make sure you're supporting Houndsman XP through our website, following us on all our social media stuff, and we've got a store out there. And I'm not trying to sell you a sweatshirt. I'm not doing a podcast so I can sell you a sweatshirt. I need you to buy your sweatshirt so I can come and interview interesting people like Dries and take that message to places like the Safari Club International Convention, and just keep telling the story. So you can check that out at houndsmanxp.com. And until next time, this is Fair Chase.